So, hi everybody and welcome back to the C++ tutorial series for absolute beginners. This is video 79, and in this video we continue with our exercise, and I have shifted all the comments which I had in my int main scope into the new if else scope here, which determines if we found a username or not. So if we found a username, we will continue with the else block here with this scope. If not, we will just do nothing because the true block has no code, which means it stops there. So it stops not really there, it stands here and do nothing, and then it will jump out of the if statement. After the jump out of the if statement, it will go to the get char, and that's it. And that's why I shifted all the comments into this else block here. And here we will continue with the code, and the reason for that is like I showed you here, only if the password, if we really found a password, then we can give access to the account. And here one note, you can see this one is not, for example, the best solution of a if structure. What I mean with that, you could write this one much shorter than what I did here, for example. First of all, here's another error. This is just a development error. This line of code was just for testing, right? I used this back in the other videos just for testing, and after you use this for testing, you delete this, you deactivate this, or at least you write a comment anywhere just for testing, And right now I have tested this one. I don't need this, and that's why you even you should just get rid of this. So don't waste here any codes which you don't need, because it makes a little bit more not readable, and we need only informations which we need. So that said, the second problem was this if statement. If you want, you could make this a little bit easier. I made it actually a little bit longer, but longer is sometimes convenient. What I mean with that is just the first solution which comes into your mind you can use. But here I could also use a not equal, and if I write here not equal, I could just skip this block here and just use yes, this one as well, and just use this block here down and write here std out wrong password, because it's not equal, it's a wrong password. And if this is equal, then it would the if statement would not go into this block here, and it will continue with the else statement. And you see there are many ways how you can solve this one. So it's not wrong, it's not wrong, this is what you see here. But important to note is but slightly but steady we get more options to solve problems, right? Problems I mean with that is all time what the task which we have to solve. So there is no one way solving, but of course later you can analyze the solvings what you have and find perhaps the best one. For example, profiling. You can say the other one is better because of that, the other one is better because of that, and that will give you again experience. Or you can check the best practice options online. What is the better practice to use this one or that one, and why? So that means later you have to make a research. But important note here is there is not this one line solving system, right? There is not only one solution. It's similar to a while loop. You can use a while loop or a for loop, right? It was here on top. This for loop, I could use here easier while loop, because I can change a for loop to a while loop and a while loop back to a for loop, something like that. Or this if statement, not this one, but if statements, you can use instead of if statements a switch statement. So keep this in mind. There is not the best solution, but there are some good solutions, which means they are following some good practices. And this kind of stuff you have to read online in theory. But in general, in programming, what you should do is just use the first solution which you have with your knowledge and make it. That's it. So I talked again a little bit here, but this information is very important for development. And let's continue here. So now I shifted all this up and we have finished this line here. If fail, print out wrong password. Yes, I did it here. And let's get, and this was again, this node have to go on from here. That was the node which I wrote because I used this if else structure, which determines that I have to go on from here because it works only when I found the right username and found then also the password here. So we don't need this information anymore because I shifted now all the comments here up. I know I'm going from here on. I have this noted. So let's get rid of the comments which you don't need. This one is done here on top. If you want, you can shift this one up, but I keep this here. And let's go on. If success, show account info. And I think here is something wrong because it says here, if success, category free categories, show free selectable categories, which means I have to shift this a little bit up. It should be here. Show free selectable categories. Here are the categories. And here is the reusable code, which I talked in the last video, I think. And yeah, so let's get started. I hope you have a reusable code because I'm not using it. I start from scratch. And first of all, show free selectable categories. Okay, here are my categories. I made them. And now I have just made the selection system. I say to the user, I print on screen that the user can select free categories. Let's make this as they say out. I'm too lazy. I just copy this line of code and use it. Of course, type in if you want train typing and not to be so slow like me. Because if you type this one, you train also your typing skill. This is also very nice to have. But in my case, let's write here something. First of all, I want to make here on top a new line. For example, new line. It's all time nice to have new lines at the start. And then I write select one category. One category, very simple. And then after this one I make some select one category. This one is actually later. First of all, I have to show these categories, so which means I copy again this one and then I have to show this one before you can select something. And here I show the categories. So the category was this, what was this again? Here on this term, my favorite books. Let's write them down and let's associate them with numbers again. I think this is one of the easiest way. But of course, if you have a better way, just use it. My favorite books is equal to 0, or other way around. Makes perhaps 0 is equal to my books. And then you can write here comma. 1 is equal to my favorite games. And you can write here again one more thing too for my favorite movies. My favorite movies. All right, we have them. So we have select one category. Okay, one category. And then we need again this input variable. And this time I put the variable again on top in my int main. But we said we should make local variables, right? And a local variable would be in this scope actually here. But still, I don't use this local variable in this case. I still use this a local variable, and the reason for that is later you will see that this one is still one block, which means it's still local to one function. In this case, actually, this is the start function. And yeah, you can read about this one, but it's easier for me to handle here the variables here on top, and later I just scroll top and then I see all the variables now. You see, these are only variables, arrays and so on, but only variables. And here I said need slot for later comparison. Yes, I can keep this and I make it down here. And what variable I needed here? I needed here selection variable. Let's call it then like this one, and I use a int and I call it a little bit more accurate for what I'm going to select actually here. Selection variable for categories, something like that. Okay, then I write category selection variable. Category selection variable. So that makes sense, and by default I say you are 0. Alright, category selection variable is on top. It's very descriptive, it's very long, but yeah, category selection, I don't know if this makes sense here with this variable. Category selection, that is a variable, it's absolute clear. So I think we should delete this variable. Sounds only good, but it makes no sense to write here variable, right? So don't write something which makes no sense. Category selection, that's enough here in this case. And I think I made there an example exactly with this one, that you don't have to write here variable because it is clear that it is a variable, right? All right, we can continue. And then I have this selection variable now. And now the same thing like before, I have to ask okay, we have asked here the customer or the whoever it is to put in a number. And actually we have not asked it right, because this information which we gave here, it's not enough. It prints out just 0 is my favorite books, but the customer thinks, okay, interesting, and what should I do? So we have to ask him correctly or instruct him correctly what he should do. So we copy one more line here to make this more accurate. So we say here a little bit more with this description here what he should do, because most time the customer won't know what he should do. And here you say then choose number, for example, choose a number to select a category, and then this one is now clear for the customer, because before, for example, this line, it's clear for the programmer, but the customer says, yes, nice. And what is that? What is this cryptic 0 equal my favorite books? What I should do with that? And then when you write here something like choose a number to select a category, and then he can figure out what the 0 equal my favorite books means. So the meaning of this line, right? So, and then we say select one category. Makes this sense here? This line here makes no sense. And we have, of course, rewrite this here. Selected category. Let's write this one here, selected category. And we can make this one this way. That's fine. And let's write here one more thing. For example, we write here, of course, we have now just to get in the code like standard std cin in our case. And here we have now this rated variable, and we can see here it is this category selection. Okay. And you see when I search now variables, that's very nice all time. I'm not searching between the codes. Where is this variable? Where I have created? I just scroll here on top and I know here I have created. Careful, not on global scope. This is still local for int. Global is sometimes danger, but this one is also considered already a little bit global in relative to these other ones. But still, this is just for training. Later we will get better and know how to use it better. So, okay, we have the variable name. And you see, I scroll just top and see it instantly. Category selection, okay. I have it, write it down. Category selection, I have it. I save it now in this one. And after I have now this category selection, I can print out, depends on this category selection, this info, right? Why I go all time here on top, on the bottom in the comments, I have it here. So for example, then I can print out one of these categories. These are anyway arrays. So I will loop here through and print out all the information like you want. So, but before I can print out, I need again an if statement, but this time I'm going to use a switch statement just so that we have repeated a switch statement as well. So all time if it's nice, normally if it's enough, but let's train a little bit switch statement and repeat it, right? We are here to train a little bit, to train variables, to use all these keywords. And like I said, there is all time different kind of possibilities how you can solve this. This time I choose a switch and the condition is this category selection because I select here a number and depends on the number I will do something. So how we make a switch again, we need the body of the switch. So we have again a local scope here and we need cases which can be the cases of the selection category. In this case, it is a int variable. That's also very helpful to know what kind of variable we have. So we can write a case 0, netcast case 0, and then we learned that you can write this behind this colon. What you need, but it is better to write it with again this curly braces scope variable body, because this one, if you do this one, you can even declare variables here and the scope is absolute clear. Without this one, I think if you declare here variables there, it will the compiler will complain because it's not case it is not clear something with the scope. Okay, let's continue. Okay, we repeated this as well, and what we do now, okay, the case 0, it says my favorite books, and now if he selected my favorite books, he should now print out all my favorite books on the screen. What we can do is again a loop. So we have already use this for loop. You can use it again, of course, but this time I'm going to use a while loop because we want to train a little bit, right? How we are going to use this while loop? Okay, I have a while. I have here my condition. Then I have here my body. All right, so far it's good. But the while loop is a little bit special. Here in this while, I write just a condition. And this condition counter, because it's a loop, so I will have here counter, and this counter is here special. It is not in this condition and it is not in this loop, at least not the declaration. The declaration is outside, so we take this in account, and now this curly brackets of the case then of the case makes sense because this one would not work without this one. So I write here something like int and while counter, yes, while counter, it's enough, and equals 0, my start point. I start with 0 and I say as long as this while counter is not equal to, let's say 2, right? We start with 0, and if it's equal to 2, or let's say less than 3. No, that's right, equal to 2, because 0, 1, 2 we want. As long as it's not equal to 2, it should loop. So, and how we access this? Of course, this while counter which we have here, we have to increment. And while we are on increment, we learned also this increments. We have this post increment, or we have this anti-increment. And yeah, here you can think about it, what it's better. I can just test this post increment, for example, and I hope it works. That's all time the hope without thinking, but if you think it should work. So let's continue a little bit. All right, so now my hope that this is working, but if it's not working, we will go here a little bit to the debug. So I hope it works not, and yeah, we will see in a moment. So let's continue here with first our task. Now this one is looping. Here was one much, and this one is looping, and while this one is looping, of course I have now to print out all the elements on the screen, again with a little bit format, so we have to format a lot, but let's get first the elements which we want print out on the screen. And we can do something like, let's see, std say out, and then the easy way would be just right here this array. We need just this my favorite books array, which I created because I was so lazy. I created just here arrays with 3 elements. Let's copy this one. Yeah, this is not the best way. Control C is, by the way, the shortcut. I'm just right now too lazy even to press Control C. And I continue here a little bit where I am here. And now I have to write just here Control V. This one I put. I just take here this while counter, because this one is now my slot actually. And this would work, but here we have one problem. The problem is now again this style. Of course, this one will be printed here on the left side. And of course you can make here a little bit styling, and let's do it, why not? Let's make styling a little bit at least, and I try my best to style as good as I can, and of course all time a new line at the start. So, and now this one can work, must not work, and if this while counter is later 2, it will jump out of the loop. So 0 will be printed, 1 will be printed, and 2 will be not printed. That's a bad sign, but I still keep it so that I can show you the debug version. And yeah, let's continue. But the problem is we are not finished with our switch statement. We have to continue, of course. What is important here? There was one more important thing about the switch. Yes, it is the break statement. The break means if you want not continue after it found one, you have to make break. Because if you don't make here break, and you go, and we go now, for example, to the case 1, and here is not a break, and it found here already this one, it will use this one, and then it will use also the next one till it finds a break. But when we set it here a break, it will stop here and jump out of the switch. So that's very important. But let's continue, and because I'm really lazy, I just copy all the code. It's called reusing the code. Let's reuse the code. So of course here, before we reuse it, let's make here a body for the case 2, copy the code here, change here a little bit The only thing which will really change is my favorite. Well, let's make the games here. Or my favorite, what was this? Yes, games. Games. And the next step, the same thing. Don't forget the break. And now we have also here the break for this one. And we need one more case. And let's write the next case. The case 2. And here again the body. And here again the paste, reusing the code. And we write here books. It's this time not books, movies. Okay, movies. I hope I have it. Yes, I have it on top. And we are almost finished, but we are not finished. What is missing here? So we have now covered all 3 categories, but the switch statement is actually not finished. Because we have case 0, 1, 2. Actually, you can finish here. You can say, I'm finished. I don't need a default, but if you want, you can make a default as well. But in this case, actually, we don't need a default. So the next thing which is irritating is, why is this on the same line? Normally, when you see something like this one, it should be not the case, but in this situation, it is actually not wrong. And the reason for that one is this curly brackets which I added here is, let's say, not it's needed because we declared their variable, but normally it will start here intended in this place, and the format anyhow, it's not taking this in account. Of course, you could manually shift this one with tab 1 in, like so, if you want to stand it more out. Let's do it, why not? Not too lazy. I am lazy, but not that lazy. Now I made a mistake. Or now I made a super mistake. Control Z. And here again. What I wanted to do is actually just shift this one here. So, and here, of course, here break 2. But this is, even if it's the last one, we can set here break 2. And now it's formatting, auto formatted back. Interesting. Let's see if this one, what the auto format does. Control F. Yes, the auto format put it back. Let's keep it here. Let's keep it here. The auto format is putting it back. All right. Because the problem is here, normally this line, what you see here, are indicating the scope, right? This is a scope symbol. So here the scope for this else starts here. It goes down to this point here. But in this case, we have a problem. These lines are on the same line here, but they are not on the same scope. Because the scope is still, let's see, this scope belongs together. And this line is not really visible anyhow now. What I mean with that is, where is this switch? Where is the switch start? And actually, it is the switch itself. It goes from here to this point here. And that's a little bit strange why this is so, but okay. Perhaps some formatting problems in or settings, or I made something wrong, who knows. So anyway, we did this so far, and the last thing what we have to do is to check, but we check this in the next video because this video is again very long. But I hope we learn and see different ways, and we repeat again many keywords again, how to use them and so on. And like all time, if you have any questions, any complaints, write it in the comments, and see you in the next video. Bye.